Nicole Petallides joins us right now at the New York Stock Exchange. Market Watchers Angela Sloan and Tim Courtney. So, Nicole, it seems like the markets, and today, of course, today is an Adele rally, so let's just leave that out. But do you think that the markets are prepared for the possibility that the upper income rate cut isn't what it appears, that if you take Mnuchin at his word, it's going to be offset by limiting their deductions, and they might not be happy campers. And you're surrounded by all of them, those 1%ers, who are going to be like, whoa, this isn't what we thought would happen. What do you think?
I see what you're saying, and I understand your point to the elements that this is the top tier that may not get those great, phenomenal tax cuts that were promised. But I don't know whether or not the market will react dramatically to that piece of news if it were to come to fruition. I will say that the market is reacting to the things that we believe to be true, and that is that we are going to have broad-based tax cuts. Phenomenal tax cuts. We're going to hear more about that in the coming weeks, 2 weeks roughly. Also, we have better than expected corporate earnings that have come in, Neil. 5% growth roughly. That outpaces the 3.2% growth that everybody anticipated. And the rollback in regulation. And we're already seeing that to a certain extent. So while the tax cuts and the ideas of the tippy top of the barrel, well, we'll see about that. And there's two questions. Whether or not he'll be confirmed today, Steve Mnuchin, and also whether or not he loves Adele. Don't you think that's an important question?
If he doesn't love Adele, he might as well just skip out of town right now, because I will personally make life hell for him. You know, when we look at this, and I'm looking at some of the gains we've had, certainly since Election Day, Angela, and one of the things that comes up is this idea the market's priced for perfection here, that it wants to see everything go as it thinks it will go, with broad-based tax reform, much lower taxes, regulations really hacked away, all industries benefiting. That's a tall order. Do you think that the markets are a little bit too giddy?
Well, I don't know, but you know, every time President Trump mentions the word tax cuts, the market goes berserk. And I think keeping the capital gains rate in check that's extremely important. But I think there's other parts of the tax code that needs to be looked at as well. For example, I have a little Angelaism that I've used for years, and it's for every tax law in the book, somehow, somewhere, some way, some politician needed to get around it, and there's ways to do so. So I think one of the first places that we need to look at is the politicians' tax returns. See what loopholes they're using, because that'll tell you what holes need to be sewed up in the tax code. Also, all the waste needs to be taken control of.
No, and they never do that. They never, ever do that.
I think we have a president now that understands you don't waste. And if we can get those holes sewed up in our pockets, that'll also be a huge help.
Well, I hope you're right about that, but I don't know if we'll see that. But Tim Courtney, I do want to get a sense of, when Angela touched on it here, the kind of things you'd like to see coupled with big tax cuts and all of that, that there's real follow-through. Now, if this is part of the budget reconciliation process, that it would require just a simple majority of votes to pass. That's one thing. If it requires something like 60 votes to pass, that's quite another, right?
Right.
Right.
I do want to go to Tim on that. Tim?
That's right. And that's one of the things the market has been very optimistic about. You know, in November, December, January, the market has moved forward on optimism that the tax package would go through, and timing was always an issue. And I think you are starting to see some stories come out that are indicating, look, we're working on this, but it could be months, it could be a couple quarters before this comes out. And I think there will be some good tax reform, good regulatory reform come out of this, especially at the corporate level. That's what I think the markets are really focusing on. There's been estimates that for every 1% drop in the corporate tax rate, earnings will go up by 1.5%. That's a big amount. And
well, that would be interesting, because all of a sudden it would justify multiples that look historically high. Nicole, do you buy that? That all of a sudden, you know, you get a pickup in earnings, you get, you know, that commensurate tax cut bounce. All of a sudden, this market doesn't look very pricey.
Well, it's hard to quantify exactly what the benefits will be, but there's no doubt there's going to be benefits, right? I mean, if you have the spending on infrastructure, you're reinstating jobs, you're creating new jobs, you have better earnings, you have companies that don't have to pay so much in taxes, they're reinvesting in their people and their businesses and their expansion. And we know that Steve Mnuchin's going to be really the one heralding through with economic policies, infrastructure spending, rolling back trade deals such as that with Iran. All of that equals boosting the U.S. economy. It doesn't equal, you know, a poorer economy. So you have to say that most people are still very optimistic, and they still are loving this market. And we're seeing industrials and financials and energy. I mean, it is just across the board the new
I hear you. Real quickly, guys, Angela, do you think Mnuchin will make a big difference in this debate? Will he lead this debate, seeing as he's had some mixed signals he's been given on tax cuts, certainly on the upper end?
Yes, and I think what she was just saying about the corporate tax rate, that's very important, because if you can make this attractive for corporations to keep hiring, to bring our jobs back, to hire more people, you know, the corporate tax rate cut, I think, is where the focus needs to be, even more so than the individual tax rate. But I believe that, you know, you get more jobs, more people working, more people paying into the system, it's going to solve a lot of problems, and then we can work into these others as well. Yeah.
Your quick take on that?
Yeah, I think that's right. And you are seeing a lot of optimism, especially on smaller companies. That's a good sign. Small business owners are very optimistic for hiring, for investing. That's one of the things we've lacked over the last several years is business investment. That's going to be very important.
Guys, I want to thank you all very, very much.